The wind howled like a wild beast across the frozen plains of Kireth 7. Thick snowflakes swirled in the air, making it hard to see even a few steps ahead. The cold was sharp and biting, a chill that seemed to cut through layers of clothing and freeze the very bones. Lieutenant Marcus Hale pulled his jacket tighter around him as he trudged through the deep snow. Kireth 7 was a distant ice world, far from Earth and its warm sun. It was a place where few dared to go. The Interstellar Alliance had sent Marcus on a mission to find a lost probe that had crashed somewhere on this cold planet. The probe carried important information, and its loss was a problem that had to be fixed. Marcus had been walking for hours. His boots sank deep into the snow with every step, and the cold had started to numb his fingers. The storm was growing stronger, and the sky was turning darker. He knew he needed to find shelter soon or risk freezing. Suddenly, something caught his eye in the white blur ahead. At first, Marcus thought it was just a rock or a piece of debris. But as he moved closer, he saw a small figure lying on the snow. His heart jumped. It was a girl. An alien girl. She was very thin and barely moving. Her skin was pale but shimmered slightly like crystals. She was curled up on the ground and frost covered her hair and clothes. She looked frozen, and her breath came in shallow gasps. Marcus could see that she was in real trouble. Without thinking twice, Marcus dropped his heavy pack and knelt beside her. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked softly, even though he wasn't sure she could hear him. He took off his thermal blanket and wrapped it carefully around her trembling body. The girl's eyes flickered open. They were large and bright, a strange color between blue and violet. She blinked slowly, looking confused. Marcus could tell she was cold and scared. "I'm here to help," he said gently. Marcus knew it was risky. He was trained to be careful with unknown aliens. They might be dangerous or carry diseases. But right now, this girl needed help. No rules mattered in the face of life and death. He lifted her carefully into his arms. She was light, almost too light for someone her size. Her fingers were icy cold against his skin. Marcus felt a strange sadness. Who was she? How did she end up here, alone and freezing? The wind screamed outside, shaking the few broken trees around them. Marcus looked around for a place to shelter. The survey pod they had set up for their mission was about 1 kilometer away, but it was too far to carry her in this storm. Then Marcus spotted a small cave entrance hidden behind a ridge. It was narrow, but it would block the wind. He started, walking toward it, each step a struggle against the snow and the cold that threatened to steal his strength. Inside the cave, the air was cold but still. Marcus laid the girl down gently on a bed of snow and covered her with his blanket. He took out his emergency heater and switched it on. The small device began to hum quietly, sending warm air into the space around them. The alien girl's breathing grew steadier. She closed her eyes again, resting. Marcus sat beside her, his mind racing. What was her name? Where did she come from? Was she from a friendly planet, or one that might want to hurt humans? He looked at the small communicator on his wrist. It was no use now. The storm blocked all signals. Help might take days to arrive. Marcus was alone with this fragile stranger in the middle of a frozen wasteland. Hours passed. The storm outside did not stop. Inside the cave, Marcus stayed awake, watching over the girl. He shared his rations with her, giving her some water and a small piece of protein bar. She didn't eat or drink, but her fingers slowly stopped trembling. When the storm finally slowed, dawn began to break outside. The pale light showed the world covered in snow and ice. The girl's eyes opened again. This time she looked around with wonder and fear. Marcus smiled gently. "You're safe now," he said. The girl tried to speak, but only soft, strange sounds came out. Marcus shook his head. "I don't understand your language, but I want to help you." He reached out his hand. After a moment, she took it. Her touch was cool but gentle. Marcus felt a spark of hope. Over the next few minutes, Marcus used his tablet to show her pictures of Earth, humans, and spaceships. He pointed to himself and said, "Marcus." Then he pointed to her and waited. She smiled faintly and said a Words soft and musical. Marcus repeated it slowly. Sarah Lee. She nodded. Marcus learned that her name was Sirali. She was a scout, sent ahead to find a safe place for her people. But something had gone wrong. Her ship was destroyed, and she was left alone on this cold world. Marcus knew the story was bigger than just this moment. Sirali's survival might mean peace or war for many worlds. He made a silent promise to protect her. Outside the cave, the storm was ending, but inside, a new journey was just beginning. The storm outside the cave had finally died down, leaving the world covered in thick white snow. The sky was still gray and cold wind whispered faintly around the cave entrance. Inside, the small shelter felt warm because of the emergency heater Marcus had turned on. Sirali lay wrapped in his thermal blanket, her breathing steady but shallow. Marcus sat beside her, watching carefully. Her strange crystal-like skin was still pale, but it no longer looked frozen. He wanted to learn more about her, but there was a big problem. She spoke a language Marcus had never heard before, and he had no way to translate it fully. He reached for his tablet. It was a device made to help with communication in emergencies. It could translate many alien languages, but Sirali's was new and unknown. The tablet showed simple images and sounds, trying to match words. Marcus opened the Basic Phrases app and pointed at a picture of water. Water? He said slowly. Sirali's eyes lit up, and she nodded once. Marcus quickly handed her a small bottle of water. She took it carefully and drank a little. It was clear she hadn't eaten or drunk anything for a long time. Next, Marcus tried showing a picture of food. Sirali looked confused, then shook her head. She pointed to her wrist and then at Marcus. Time? Marcus guessed. He tapped the clock app on his tablet. Sirali made a soft sound, like a hum, and pointed to the cave entrance. She wanted to leave. Marcus shook his head. Not now, he said. Too cold. Sirali looked at him with big, serious eyes. Then she did something unexpected. She took Marcus's hand and held it gently. Marcus felt a sudden warmth spread through him, more than just the heat from the blanket. It was a feeling of connection, of trust. Marcus smiled. We need to survive first, he said. He thought hard about what to do next. If Sirali was a scout from another planet, she must know things he didn't. Maybe she had technology or information that could help. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small glowing device. It was a translator beacon designed to record and analyze unknown languages. Marcus turned it on and placed it on the ground between them. Talk, Marcus said softly. Sirali looked at the device and then spoke a few words in her language. The sounds were soft, musical, and different from any human language Marcus had heard. The translator beacon began to record. Marcus tried to listen carefully, matching her words with gestures and pictures on his tablet. She pointed at herself and said Sirali. Then she pointed at Marcus. Marcus. They repeated this several times, both laughing softly when the tablet made funny sounds trying to copy their voices. After a while, Marcus tried to ask where her ship was. He pointed to the sky and made a flying motion with his hand. Sirali's face darkened. She looked down at the snow and whispered something that made Marcus's heart ache. Then she pointed to the ground, as if something was broken there. Crash, Marcus guessed. Sirali nodded. She tried to explain more, using gestures and sounds. She moved her hand as if something big was falling from the sky, then made a sad face. Marcus understood. Her ship had crashed on this planet, and she was the only one left. Suddenly, Sirali reached into a small pouch at her waist and pulled out a tiny crystal. It glowed softly in the dim light. Marcus watched in amazement. The crystal pulsed gently, like it was alive. This? Marcus asked. Sirali nodded. She placed the crystal carefully on the translator beacon. The device started to glow brighter, picking up signals from the crystal. Marcus realized it was some kind of message device, maybe a way for Sirali to call for help. But the storm had blocked all communication. We need to fix this, Marcus said. Or find a way to send your message. Sorali's eyes showed hope for the first time. She smiled weakly and touched Marcus's hand again. Suddenly, a noise came from outside the cave, distant, but growing louder. Marcus stood quickly, his hand going to his sidearm. The sound was the hum of engines. He peered out and saw a small hovercraft approaching through the snow. His heart raced. It was the Earth military team sent to find him and the lost probe. Marcus felt a mix of relief and worry. The team was coming, but they did not know about Sorali. What would happen when they saw her? Would they understand she was a friend, or would they see her as a threat? He hurried back to the cave. "Sorali, stay here," he said firmly. "Don't come out yet." Sorali looked at him with wide eyes but nodded. She seemed to understand the danger. Marcus stepped outside and waved to the hovercraft. The soldiers jumped out, their faces covered with helmets and masks. One of them called out, "Lieutenant Hale, we found your signal. Are you okay?" Marcus nodded and gave them a quick report. He did not mention Sorali yet. He had to think, carefully. The commander looked around and frowned. "Storm's clearing, but this place is still dangerous. It's set up a base here." Marcus glanced back at the cave. Sorali was watching from the shadows, silent and still. He took a deep breath. He knew he had to protect her, even if it meant going against orders. Because sometimes, survival was not just about rules, it was about compassion. Marcus walked back inside and sat down beside Sorali. "We're not safe yet," he said quietly. "But I won't let anything happen to you." Sorali smiled faintly and closed her eyes. Marcus felt the weight of the moment. Two strangers from different worlds, thrown together by chance and fate, finding trust in the coldest place in the galaxy. Outside, the snow began to fall again, soft and silent. Inside the cave, a new bond was forming, a bond that might change the future of many worlds. The snowstorm outside the cave continued to rage, but inside, Marcus and Sorali sat close to the small heater, trying to stay warm. The cold had not left Kyreth 7, and every moment counted. Marcus was determined to keep Sorali safe, but he also wanted to understand more about who she was and why she was here. Sorali, still weak, but slowly gaining strength, looked at Marcus with tired eyes. She seemed ready to share her story, but words were hard. Marcus remembered the translator beacon and hoped it could help. He switched on the device and placed the glowing crystal Sorali had given him beside it. The device picked up a faint signal. Slowly, it started to decode some of her language, giving Marcus a few simple words. With the help of the tablet, Marcus pointed to himself and said, "Human." Sorali nodded. "Friend?" Marcus asked, hoping. She smiled softly. "Friend." Marcus's heart lifted. The simple word gave him hope that despite their differences, they could trust each other. Sorali then pointed to the sky outside the cave. "Ship. Crash. Bad," she said slowly, using the few English words she had learned. Marcus nodded. He already understood the ship had crashed, but he wanted to know more. "Who shot your ship?" he asked. Sorali's face grew serious. "She," whispered a word Marcus couldn't understand. Then she made a sharp cutting motion with her hand. Marcus guessed it meant enemy. Sorali looked worried. She pointed to a picture on Marcus's tablet of a star system, showing planets and stars. She touched one, then another, as if explaining her journey. Marcus listened carefully. She told him that her people were travelers and explorers. They did not come to fight. They were running away from danger, a powerful empire that wanted to control all nearby planets. That empire had attacked her ship, mistaking it for a war vessel. Marcus's mind raced. If this was true, it could mean trouble for the whole region of space. He looked at Sorali and said, "Refugees?" She nodded slowly. Marcus understood that Sorali's people were not enemies but survivors, and her mission was to find a safe place for the others, the children and families on her ship. But now they were stuck on this cold, frozen world, alone. Marcus felt a deep respect for Sorali. Her courage was clear even in this frozen place. He wanted to do more than just protect her. He wanted to help her complete her mission. Suddenly, a sound outside the cave made both of them freeze. Marcus reached for his sidearm, but he did not want to start a fight. The noise was the faint hum of engines closer than before. Marcus's stomach tightened. He opened the cave entrance slightly and looked out. There, through the swirling snow, he saw shapes, vehicles, and soldiers. The Earth military team had arrived. Marcus's heart beat fast. The soldiers did not know about Sirali. To them, she could be a danger, a stranger from an unknown world. He closed the entrance quickly and looked at Sirali. "They're here," he said quietly. "We need to hide." Sirali nodded and stood slowly. She reached into her pouch and pulled out a small device, which emitted a soft blue light. Marcus didn't know what it was, but it seemed to help her stay calm. Marcus grabbed his pack and motioned for Sirali to follow him deeper into the cave. They found a narrow tunnel leading away from the entrance. It was dark and cold, but safe as they moved, Marcus explained quietly. "The soldiers might think you're a threat. I have to be careful." Sirali looked at him with understanding. She trusted Marcus, even though she knew little about humans. They waited in the tunnel as the soldiers searched the area. Marcus could hear their voices echoing, speaking in rapid commands. One soldier shouted, "Find the lieutenant, and anything else that might be out here?" Marcus's breath caught. "Anything else?" meant Sirali. He hoped the soldiers would not come into the cave. If they found Sirali, things could become dangerous. Hours passed slowly. Marcus and Sirali stayed still, listening to the distant voices and footsteps. Sirali rested against Marcus's side, drawing strength from his presence. Finally, the soldiers gave up and left, returning to their vehicles. The sounds faded, leaving only the cold wind outside. Marcus let out a slow breath. "They're gone. For now." Sirali smiled weakly. She took Marcus's hand again and squeezed it. Marcus looked at her, feeling a strong connection. "We can't stay here," he said. "It's not safe." Sirali nodded. "Go. Help others." Marcus understood. She wanted to send a message to warn her people and call for help. But how? He thought about the ancient ruins marked on the map nearby, an old alien outpost buried under the ice. If they could reach it, maybe they could find technology to send a signal. It would be dangerous. The ruins were far, and the storm could return at any time. But Marcus knew they had no choice. He helped Sirali stand. "We leave soon. Together." Sirali looked at him with hope and trust. For the first time, Marcus felt that they were more than just a human and an alien. They were partners in survival, linked by a fragile but powerful bond. Outside, the wind began to pick up again. The cold world of Kirith 7 waited silently as the two prepared to face whatever dangers lay ahead. The cold wind cut sharply through the air as Marcus and Sirali stepped out of the cave. The snow still fell lightly, covering everything in white. The sky was gray and the world felt silent, too silent. They had to move fast. Marcus looked around. The hovercrafts of the Earth military team were parked not far from the cave. Soldiers patrolled the area, scanning the snow with their equipment. Marcus knew they couldn't stay here. If the soldiers found Sirali, they might think she was a threat. "Come," Marcus said quietly, taking Sirali's hand. She nodded and followed. They moved carefully across the snow-covered ground, trying to stay hidden in the low light. Sirali's glowing crystal hung around her neck, softly pulsing with light. Marcus hoped it might help them find a way to send a signal to her people later. As they walked, Marcus thought about what they had learned so far. Sirali's people were peaceful refugees, but others might see them as enemies. The mistake that had caused her ship to be shot down could start a war if no one stopped it. Suddenly, a sharp noise broke the quiet. Marcus stopped and held up his hand. "Listen," he whispered. Far ahead through the falling snow, they saw moving lights, search drones scanning the area. The Earth soldiers were still looking for them. Marcus's heart pounded. They had to avoid those drones or be caught. He pointed toward a line of low hills covered in snow. "That way," he said. Sirali nodded and moved quickly, her feet barely, making a sound in the deep snow. The hills gave some cover, but moving was hard. The cold burned Marcus's face and the snow was deep. Sirali was light on her feet, moving faster than Marcus expected. After a few minutes, the drones got closer. Their light swept over the hills like big, bright eyes. Marcus pressed himself against a rock and pulled Sirali down with him. They stayed still, holding their breath as the drones passed nearby. When the danger passed, Marcus looked at Sirali. She was smiling, but her eyes were serious. "We can't stop," Marcus said. "We need to find the ruins. They are our only chance." Sirali nodded and showed Marcus a small map she had hidden in her pouch. It was old and worn, but it showed the location of the ancient alien city buried beneath the ice, a place Marcus had never heard of before. They started moving. Again, careful to avoid the search drones, Marcus led the way, following Sirali's map and his own instincts. The snow was thick, and the cold was harder to fight. Marcus's fingers were numb, and his boots left heavy prints. Sirali seemed to glide through the snow, moving with surprising strength. After a few hours, they reached the edge of a wide valley. The ruins were somewhere beyond, hidden beneath miles of ice. Marcus pulled out his climbing gear. "We have to cross this valley," he said. "It will be dangerous, but we don't have a choice." Sirali looked at him with trust and nodded. They started to cross the valley, moving slowly over the frozen surface. The ice cracked and groaned beneath their feet. Each step was careful and tense. Suddenly, Marcus heard a voice behind him. "Lieutenant Hale, stop!" He turned quickly to see several soldiers rushing toward them, weapons drawn. Marcus raised his hands. "Wait, she's not a threat." But the soldiers did not listen. They had orders to capture any unknown alien life. Sirali stepped forward, holding her glowing crystal high. The light brightened, shining like a beacon in the cold. Marcus stepped in front of her. "Please listen, she is a refugee. We need to help her." One soldier hesitated, lowering his weapon slightly, but another shouted, "No, capture them." Marcus knew this could become a fight, but he refused to let it happen. He pulled out a small device, a signal jammer, and activated it. The soldiers' communication devices went silent. "This isn't the way," Marcus said firmly. "We need peace, not war." The soldiers looked confused. Their orders were interrupted, and Marcus took the chance to speak. "Sirali is from a people who want peace. Her ship was shot down by mistake. If we don't help her, more blood will be shed." A tense silence followed. Then the commander of the soldiers stepped forward. "We'll take you both back to base," the commander said. "But we will listen." Marcus nodded, relieved. Sirali looked at Marcus with gratitude. They had survived the chase, but their journey was far from over. As the soldiers led them away, Marcus felt a new hope. Maybe, just maybe, this small act of trust could change the fate of many worlds. The transport shuttle rumbled over the icy surface as Marcus, Sirali, and the Earth soldiers traveled toward the ancient ruins, hidden beneath Kireth 7's thick ice. Outside the windows, the frozen landscape stretched endlessly, silent, cold, and mysterious. Marcus glanced at Sirali. She sat quietly, her glowing crystal resting softly against her chest. She was still weak, but the hope in her eyes had grown, stronger since they escaped the chase. The ruined city they were heading to was their last chance to send a message, a way to call for help and warn others about the danger approaching. When they finally reached the site, the shuttle landed near a large mound of ice and snow. Marcus could barely believe what lay beneath. The ground was uneven, with strange shapes and structures half covered by frost. This was no ordinary ruin. It was an ancient alien city, built long ago by a civilization that had disappeared. Marcus and the others stepped out, their boots crunching on the icy surface. The cold air was sharp, but the sight of the ruined buildings filled Marcus with awe. The walls were carved from a blue stone that shimmered faintly in the pale sunlight. Strange symbols covered the stones, glowing softly like the crystal around Sirali's neck. "This place is old," Marcus said, scanning the area carefully. But it looks like it still has power. Sirali nodded. Yes, it is our hope. Together they approached the largest building, a dome-shaped structure half buried in snow. Marcus pushed open the heavy entrance door, and a cold wind rushed out. Inside, the air was still, filled with the quiet hum of ancient machines. The soldiers set up a small camp near the entrance while Marcus and Sirali explored the ruins. Sirali touched the glowing symbols on the walls, her fingers tracing the shapes carefully. Suddenly, a soft light filled the room. The ancient technology was waking. Marcus watched in amazement as holograms appeared, showing stars and planets. Sirali smiled faintly, understanding the images. She pulled out her crystal and held it toward a console. The crystal fit perfectly into a small slot. The ruins responded, lights flashing and machines activating. Marcus could feel a strange energy in the air, like the city itself was alive. "This is it," Sirali said. "We can send the message." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. If they could use this technology, they might reach Sirali's people and warn them about the dangers ahead. But then the ruins began to shake. The ground trembled and walls groaned as more machines woke from long silence. Suddenly, robotic sentries appeared, tall metallic guardians designed to protect the city. Their eyes glowed red, and they moved toward Marcus and Sirali. The soldiers raised their weapons, ready to fight. Marcus stepped forward, raising his hands. "Wait, they're not enemies, they're defending this place." The sentries stopped and scanned Sirali's crystal. Then their red eyes turned blue. They recognized Sirali's presence as a sign of peace. Marcus breathed a sigh of relief. Sirali activated a console, and the holographic display shifted to a communication screen. She sent a message, speaking in her language. Marcus watched as the signal traveled through the stars carried by the ancient technology. Minutes later, the crystal glowed brighter. A new message came back, a response from Sirali's people. They were safe but far away. They would come to Kireth 7 to join her. Marcus smiled. The message was proof that Sirali's mission was not over, but it was a beginning. Suddenly, the cave entrance shook again. Outside, the Earth soldiers called for Marcus. "We need to move," the commander said urgently. "We detected more ships approaching, not all are friendly." Marcus looked at Sirali. "They're coming, we have to be ready." Sirali nodded, her eyes shining with determination. Together they prepared to face whatever danger awaited. The ruins had given them hope and a chance to save many lives. As the sun set behind the icy mountains, the frozen city stood silent, waiting for the future to unfold. The sky above Kireth 7 darkened as strange ships appeared on the horizon. Their shapes were sharp and unfamiliar, cutting through the cold air like knives. Marcus watched from the ancient ruins entrance, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. "We have company," the commander said, gripping his rifle tightly. His soldiers stood ready, but their faces showed uncertainty. Sirali stepped beside Marcus, her glowing crystal pulsing gently. "They are the Empire," she said softly. "The ones who attacked my ship. They will not stop until they control this planet, and my people." Marcus looked at her, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. If the Empire took Kireth 7, they could use it as a base to spread war across nearby systems. But Marcus also knew that fighting would bring death and destruction. He took a deep breath and turned to the soldiers. "We don't have to fight," he said firmly. "We can try to talk to them." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Talk? With an empire that destroyed your ship?" Marcus nodded. "Yes. If we show them we want peace, maybe we can avoid more bloodshed." The soldiers murmured among themselves, unsure, but the fear in their eyes was clear. Sirali stepped forward, raising her crystal high. A bright light shot into the sky, a signal beacon that could be seen for miles. Moments later, a smaller ship broke away from the Empire fleet and landed near the ruins. From it came a tall figure dressed in dark armor. His face was stern and cold. Marcus stepped forward, hands open to show peace. "I am Lieutenant Marcus Hale of the Earth Alliance. This is Sirali, a scout from a peaceful people. We want to talk." The armored figure looked at Sirali with a mixture of anger and surprise. "You are the one who called me," he said in a deep voice. "Why?" Sirali spoke carefully. "Because war will only bring pain. We want to live in peace. Let us find a way." The commander of the Empire squad frowned but said nothing. Marcus took a step closer. "We have ancient technology here that could help both our people. If we work together, we can build a future without war." The armored man hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Very well. I will listen." Inside the ruined city, Marcus, Sirali, and the Empire commander sat around a glowing table filled with holograms. They talked for hours, about fears, misunderstandings, and hopes for the future. Sirali shared stories of her people's journey and the attack on her ship. Marcus spoke of Earth's desire for peace and cooperation. The Empire commander revealed his own doubts about endless fighting. Slowly, a plan took shape. They would form an alliance to protect Kirith 7 and use the ancient technology to benefit all. Outside, the soldiers relaxed. The tension eased as hope replaced fear, but peace was fragile. Suddenly, alarms sounded. The ruins shook again as automated defenses activated. The ancient machines, sensing danger, began to close off exits and prepare for battle. Marcus rushed to the controls. "We must stop them before they trap us all." Sirali worked quickly, using her knowledge of the technology. The crystal on her neck glowed brighter as she synchronized with the machines. With a final burst of light, the defenses powered down. The walls stopped moving, and the city grew quiet once more. The Empire commander looked at Marcus and Sirali. "You saved us," Marcus smiled. "Together we are stronger." As night fell over Kirith 7, the three leaders stood outside the ancient city looking at the stars. They knew the road ahead would be hard, but they also knew they had taken the first step toward a new future, one built on trust, courage, and the power of unity. The cold wind of Kirith 7 had softened, and the ice world now seemed less hostile. The sky was painted with soft colors from the rising sun, casting a warm glow over the frozen plains. For Marcus and Sirali, it was a new beginning, a moment filled with hope after days of struggle. Sirali stood near the ancient ruins, the glowing crystal still hanging around her neck. The people she had called were on their way, following the signal she had sent. Soon her ship would arrive to bring safety and peace for her people. Marcus watched her quietly. He thought back to the moment they first met, when he had found her freezing in the snow and wrapped her in his blanket. That simple act of kindness had started everything. The Earth soldiers had set up a temporary base nearby. Marcus had returned from meetings with the Interstellar Alliance leaders. They had listened to the story, and plans were already in motion for a new treaty, a promise of peace between humans and Sirali's people. Today, Sirali was to be named an ambassador, a bridge between her world and Earth. It was a role she accepted, with quiet strength. Marcus approached her gently. "Sirali," he said, "you saved more than just yourself. You saved hope for many worlds." Sirali smiled softly, her eyes shining. "I could not have done it without you, Marcus. Your kindness, it gave me strength." They stood together in silence, feeling the deep bond formed between them. Suddenly, a bright light appeared in the sky. A ship, large and sleek, descending slowly toward the ice. The ship belonged to Sirali's people, and its arrival was a promise fulfilled. Children's voices echoed from the ship as families stepped onto the ice, safe at last. They wrapped themselves in warm clothes and looked around with wonder. Marcus greeted them with open arms. He helped carry the young ones and shared food and warmth. The refugees told stories of long journeys and hope for a new home. Marcus listened carefully, understanding that their survival depended on trust between different worlds. As the days passed, Earth and Sirali's people worked together to build shelters and share technology. The ancient ruins became a symbol, a reminder of the past and a beacon for the future. One evening, Marcus and Sorali walked to the edge of the frozen valley. The stars sparkled above like diamonds in the night. Sorali looked at Marcus and said, "You saved me with your blanket, but you gave me so much more. You showed me that humans care." Marcus smiled. "And you showed me that hope can come from the coldest places." They both knew the galaxy was wide and full of dangers, but also full of possibilities. The night air was cold, but their hearts were warm. In the years to come, the story of a human and an alien girl, one frozen in the snow and one brave enough to help, would be told across many worlds. It would be a story of kindness, courage, and the power of a single act to change everything. And it all began with one blanket shared on a cold, lonely world.